My guest this morning is Allison Wolvers, who is the animator of the story of the I'm Alone. And Allison comes to us from here in Charlottetown. And Allison, how did you become involved in the project? Oh, look at the kitty cat. What did you, what is your background that led you to becoming involved?
Well, I took video game art and animation at Holland College a few years back after taking fundamental arts. So I know the teachers there and a lot of the faculty. And Chris Sharpley, the teacher at the time for video game, had reached out to me saying that there was an opportunity to do something since I had graduated from the program, was looking for work. And through him, I got set up with you, who informed me about the project, about the storyboard that was left over from Peter Wally. And yeah, we just got together from then and started working on how we were going to bring that storyboard to life.
Yeah, the storyboard that we're talking about is this shape, the story of the I'm Alone. This is just the cover of it, as it was done by Peter Wally. And of course, we have this rather cumbersome object that is illustrated in pencil crayon by Peter Wally. And as you see, it's landscape format. And this landscape format is the narration of the story, as you well know. And then the chorus looks like this. And it drops down, presumably to indicate the sinking of the I'm Alone. And we can talk about that in a few minutes. But what I'm wondering about is this format is kind of, well, let's put it this way, old in terms of animation that you are used to. So you had to digitize this storyboard. What is the process involved there?
Well, what I did with the storyboard was I originally took scans of them all. A lot of them are pretty loose, so I would have to clean them up and go over them digitally. The biggest challenge from having to move it from its traditional self into digital was the fact that a lot of the notes weren't really relevant to the technology that we have now. And also, I don't think that Peter Wally was expecting that someone else was going to take this. So a lot of the notes were either for himself or quite vague. So there was some things that would have had to be guessed upon to figure out what we were gonna do to problem solve some of the problems that came up as we were continuing. But what I would do is I would scan them, I would put them in, and then I would draw them on different layers so they were separate, so I could get that effect of the ship and the background and the foreground. So it kind of has that storybook feel that he originally was going for with it, but just with an extra level of digital setup.
You mentioned Chris Sharpley, who was your teacher at Holland College. Was part of that program of studies a historical element? So were you acquainted with the process from, say, 50 or 60 years ago?
We did a lot of focusing on like old, like we would watch old Disney films. We had different style challenges. So we would be given an artist, maybe sometimes a vintage artist, and have to try and recreate their style and what they had.
Well, let me ask you about the music that accompanies the video, which is, of course, the story of the I'm Alone by Wade Hemsworth. Mm-hmm. Did you have any challenges in terms of synchronizing the lyrics and the rhythm and the beat of it's a calypso beat, so it's rather quick. Did you have any challenges in synchronizing with the images as you were digitizing?
Yeah, I think that there was a couple different problems that came up with doing it. One being that I have never done such a full length animation before. So there was a lot of problem solving in terms of where we were going to set things up. And again, with the lack of notes, there was a lot of things that we decided on ourselves. Because it's so fast, you don't want to have a scene that's just 1 or 2 seconds, but sometimes it kind of works with it, and it's hard to decide where you're going to cut things and continue things. And I think the biggest problem with the I'm Alone was the fact that the chorus came up so many times, and you wanted something engaging and exciting and different every time the ship was sinking in that chorus. So there was tons of extra fish that were added and lots of different things to try and engage that interest without having it the same every time that it came up.
Yes, this is the chorus here, as we mentioned earlier. And as you say, it is very much to indicate the sinking of the I'm Alone after it was attacked by the US Coast Guard. And at the very top of it, there are instructions written by Peter Wally. At each playing of the chorus, camera moves slowly down from the disabled I'm Alone as it slowly settles to the bottom. And then, of course, it's the lyrics of the song itself. So you are to create movement, presumably in the old fashioned, by moving this thing up as the camera stays still, or conversely, the camera moves down. And how did you do that then to create movement using still images?
In my program that I had, the ship was actually still, and the background just flew back behind it is how I kind of got the effect. And then everything else was kind of floating up to give that effect. It was one long scene that was cut into the 7 parts as the chorus comes up. So the boat itself, I had recreated in 3D because it spins quite a bit. So I recreated the ship and then used the ship as reference by animating what I wanted in a 3D program, and then taking all of my shots and using that for reference about how it was going to go down. And then it was just a lot of days of just drawing fish.
I recall that you added some bottles of rum that were escaping from the hold of the ship as it sank, and the rum was rising to the surface. Of course, it was a rum runner. The I'm Alone was a rum runner. There are sound effects as well that you introduced, cannon fire, for example. How did you manage that?
I found a couple of different audio clips online for what I wanted. It was a really difficult middle ground to find, just because the song itself is very easily done with the extra voices of Peter Weldon and the Mountain City Four. So I didn't want to interrupt any of that audio, but I wanted to have something that was just a little bit more, just to get a little bit of that point across. So there was a cannon fire and like a couple little bubble sound effects, and yeah, just a couple little things that really the pinnacle points, mostly that would help push that without taking away from the beautiful song or interrupting like partway through a lyric.
You mentioned Peter Weldon, and I know that he corresponded with you during the process of animation. What sort of advice did he give you as you were going along?
Oh, we got lots of good advice from a lot of good people during the whole process, which was phenomenal because, again, didn't really have a ton of experience in full length animation films like this. Peter was really good because him and his daughter had some animation experience, so they had some really good storytelling critiques to put in there. There was one scene that we had to make a completely new frame to set in between, but with all of the knowledge that I had gotten from drawing all of the other pictures, it was easy to recreate my own couple scenes. But yeah, he had some really good critiques, and a lot of other people did, and that's really such a huge process of improving, especially with such a small team that we had, because usually animation teams have many people who they're always bouncing ideas off, but if we're just bouncing ideas off of each other, it can only grow so big. So having that extra balance of people to critique and to talk to and to run things by was really helpful in taking it to another level.
Yeah. I recall that he suggested, for example, that the cannonballs should be seen ripping through the sails of the I'm Alone and smashing into the hull, which would account for why it's sinking. How long did the whole process take you, Allison?
It's probably about like 6 to 8 months, I would say, maybe about a year project with everything we had going on with the like festivals and stuff. Um, it's tough because a lot of it, part of it is drawing, but a lot of it is planning and setting up the file and making things timed. And the drawing's kind of the most fun part of it, but that was probably just like a couple months of the time, and then the rest of it was the digital piecing together and getting it all done and going back and running it through again and again. So
Yeah. Now,
yeah.
this is the 100th anniversary of the start of Prohibition in the United States. And it took you about a year or so to complete it. And you mentioned film festivals. I understand we've had a number of successes there. I don't have the complete list, but do you recall how many film festivals we submitted to and the success?
Oh, I mean, it was a pretty good number. I feel like it was like, I'm not sure offhand. Like, I know that we won a couple for sure, and we got screened in quite a few. We
Yeah.
probably applied to like, I don't know, 60 or 70 or something. It was a pretty high number all over. So it was a good time. Yeah.
Yeah. My notes say that we submitted to 62 and we were shortlisted at the very least in 22 of them.
Yeah.
And 4 of them, we actually came in first place. And there were a couple of nominees and that sort of thing. So very, very successful for your first time at digitization or animation in the full length. What is your future like in terms of the animation business? Do you think you'll continue in that business?
I've definitely learned a lot during this process, and it's very magical to see a project come to life beyond just a 2D drawing, because I usually just do illustration work. So it was pretty cool to see everything come to life and make this story that a lot of people love and are quite engaged with, whether or not it's for the animation or whether or not it's for Peter Wally or for Wade Hemsworth. I feel like it's just brought a lot, which is very nice. I'll probably be doing more animation. I'll definitely be doing more illustration all the time. It's always my job. But and more animation projects in the future will definitely be on the rise, especially with everything that I've learned. I feel like it's just going to get easier with each one. So
The animation, of course, has been picked up by the CBC, by Real East Coast, for GEM broadcasting for 1 year. This, of course, as I mentioned, being the first year, 100th anniversary of Prohibition. And we're certainly hoping that it has legs in that respect. But I also know that you are, as you say, an illustrator and so on, and you are responsible for something known as hashtag just PEI Things. What is that all about? I think something
I
like
I do a lot of different sticker sheets and stickers in my as my like side job. So I do a lot of illustrative work and prints and stickers. It's my usual go-to, especially before the animation. This is kind of my art outlet. So that one was very special because it was all the Islander things. I wanted to make something that was very PEI based without just being Anne Green Gables or something in the shape of the island. So that's a bunch of local sayings that I thought could spark conversation with the tourists who might not know about stuff like the Purple House, which is a very big important thing to me as an islander who used to drive past it all the time.
so. PEI is your source of inspiration in many respects.
Oh yeah, I've lived a lot of different places in my life. I've moved to Toronto. I've visited and traveled across Asia. I lived in Vietnam for a while. Um, but there's just something really special about PEI that I think that you can't really get anywhere else. We have a very unique island, and the community and the people are just phenomenal. Got a lot of pride for the island.
Yeah, and of course, Prince Edward Island is no stranger to prohibition and rum running. The Nellie J. Banks was a schooner that was similarly involved. with the contraband trade during Prohibition, and of course was made into a song by Lenny Gallant. So thank you very much, Allison, and good luck with your future animation projects. Is there anything you'd like to add?
Be looking forward to doing more animations in the future and getting more projects done. And yeah, it can only go up from here.
Okay, well, congratulations once again on your success with the story of the I'm Alone, and let's see where it takes you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, John.
Okay.